Lawsuits have become a common occurrence in our country. Thankfully, most pregnancy centers have not been required to face the hardship that comes with defending a legal claim. But as illustrated by the dramatization that is about to unfold in this courtroom, pregnancy centers are not immune from legal claims. The purpose of this presentation is to help you, as peer counselors, understand the important legal responsibilities that come when you interact with clients. Legal claims against pregnancy centers often include allegations of false advertising. Although you may not be directly involved in determining your center's advertising practices, you should still be aware of the important impact that your center's advertising has upon the expectations of your clients. All pregnancy center advertisements should be fully truthful and free of any language that may mislead reasonable persons into believing that the center offers services that it doesn't. Most pregnancy centers list their ads under the Yellow Pages heading, Abortion Alternatives. This is perfectly appropriate, since this heading is specifically designed for pregnancy centers and usually includes a specific disclaimer stating that these advertisers do not offer or refer for abortion services. Another common and appropriate heading for pregnancy centers is pregnancy counseling. Many pregnancy centers also include language in their ads stating that they offer abortion information or information on all options. Such statements are truthful, since pregnancy centers provide information about abortion procedures and risks. Nevertheless, some courts have enjoined these ads. These courts have said that the phrase information on all options implies neutrality about abortion, which the center does not actually espouse. To avoid this particular concern, some centers use other wording, like abortion education or information about abortion procedures and risks. Let's take a closer look at the Yellow Pages ad that Mary Rowe testified about. As you can see, this ad was actually listed under the Yellow Pages heading, Abortion Alternatives. With this heading, the Yellow Pages company has included a very specific disclaimer, which tells readers that the organizations found under this heading do not offer abortion services or abortion referrals. Also, when you look at the language of the ad itself, there is nothing to specifically indicate that the center offers abortion services or referrals. Again, the statement about offering information on all options is true, since the center does provide information about abortion procedures and risks. Furthermore, because this ad is listed under the heading Abortion Alternatives, with its accompanying disclaimer, Mary will have difficulty in proving that this advertisement was likely to mislead a reasonable reader into believing that abortion services or referrals were being offered. The handling of the initial telephone call from a prospective client is extremely important. The telephone counselor should be particularly sensitive to the needs of the caller. It is also very important that the caller be given completely accurate information in response to any questions about the center's services. A prospective client should never be led to believe that the center offers abortion services or referrals. If a caller specifically requests whether abortion services are available or indicates intent to seek abortion services, the caller should be clearly advised that the center does not offer abortions or refer for abortion services. Let us take a look at how Nan actually responded to Mary's initial call to the center.
Pregnancy Resource Center, this is Nan. How may I help you?
I think I might be pregnant.
Okay. May I have your first name?
It's Mary.
Mary, have you had a pregnancy test?
No, I just know I'm pregnant.
Well, you'll need to get a pregnancy test. We can help by offering a free pregnancy test. Would you like to come into our center for a free test?
Yeah, I guess. How much do abortions cost?
The cost of an abortion varies. We can provide for you a pregnancy test, information about abortion, and other options. We're not a medical facility. We're able to refer you to doctors for confirmation of pregnancy exams. We do not offer or refer for abortion. We can and want to support you and give you information as you face this difficult decision.
Can I come in today?
Yes. We have a 1 o'clock appointment available this afternoon.
Okay, I'll be there.
Great. Can I get some more information from you?
Your center's initial face-to-face interactions with the client are vital for developing credibility and trust. These initial interactions are also critical in establishing a sound legal foundation for the services that will be provided. Good intake procedures include using forms that properly advise the clients about the services your center offers, as well as the limitations upon these services. In centers that do not offer medical or other professional services, clients should be advised that the center is not a medical clinic and that counseling is provided by peer counselors. Also, clients should always be advised that there are exceptions to the center's promise of confidentiality. Every client should be given an adequate opportunity to read and review these forms and to ask any questions that they may have about the center's services. The client should be asked to sign the intake form acknowledging that they have read and understood these limitations. This will help rebut later claims, such as the one made by Mary, that no such information was given. Now let's take a look at the initial procedures that were actually used by the Pregnancy Resource Center when Mary arrived for her appointment.
Good afternoon. How may I help you?
Hi, I have an appointment. My name is Mary. I called in earlier.
Okay, Mary. Thank you for coming. Before we can take you back for your appointment, we need you to read this form and sign on the bottom of the second page. This form will explain our services and allow us to get some initial information.
Mary. Hi. I'm Nan. I spoke to you on the phone. Do you want to come on back? I'll be the one helping you today. Okay, Mary, we're going to be in this room. I'll take that from you.
The practices that a pregnancy center follows in giving pregnancy tests to clients are very important. Most pregnancy centers are not medical clinics and do not have special waivers to act as medical laboratories. Therefore, to comply with legal requirements, these centers use procedures in which clients self-administer and read their own tests. Under this self-testing model, the pregnancy center personnel are not directly involved in performing or interpreting the test results. The role of the peer counselor is to assist the client in understanding the test and the steps necessary to perform it. The pregnancy center that attempts to provide pregnancy testing without proper medical status may subject itself to significant legal liability, including claims that it is practicing medicine without a license. To avoid the possibility of legal exposure, clients receiving pregnancy tests should be properly informed about the limitations of these tests and the fact that only a physician may properly diagnose a pregnancy. A client should never be led to believe that a separate medical diagnosis is unnecessary. Contrary to Mary's testimony, the Pregnancy Resource Center did follow proper procedures in offering pregnancy tests to clients. Let's see how these procedures were actually performed.
Okay, Mary, we're going to go ahead and do the test now. I'm going to have you perform the test. Okay, so go ahead and remove the cap and place the stick into your specimen cup. Leave it for 5 seconds. Now remove the stick, put the cap back on, and just set it down here on the tray. Now the manufacturer for this test states that the test is 99.9% accurate. We'll wait a few minutes before we look at the results. Okay, we're not a medical facility. Only a doctor can diagnose pregnancy. So no matter what your results are today, we want you to see a doctor. Do you have a doctor?
No, I don't.
Okay, we have a list of doctors we can provide you before you leave today. Okay, let's go ahead and look at the results. 2 lines indicates a positive test. 1 line indicates a negative test. What does your test reveal?
2 lines. Positive.
Presenting helpful abortion information to abortion-prone clients is one of the most critical and challenging aspects of peer counseling. Abortion information should be shared in a compassionate manner and in a way that is sensitive to the client's needs and emotional state. This is one reason why a peer counselor should avoid describing abortion as murder or as killing a baby. A peer counselor should always seek and obtain permission from a client before sharing abortion information. A client should never be pressured or coerced to receive this information. All information shared about fetal development and abortion risks should be medically accurate. This information should be supported by sources that are generally accepted in the medical profession. It is very important that these statistics not be inflated or derived from unreliable or questionable sources. Finally, all information shared about abortion should be presented in an objective manner. The use of inflammatory rhetoric or inappropriate graphic description is not necessary to illustrate why abortion is harmful or wrong.
Now, Mary, you stated that you wanted an abortion.
I have to have an abortion. It's my only choice.
What do you know about abortion procedures?
Well, my friend had one and she said it was no big deal.
May I share with you some information about fetal development and abortion procedures?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. According to the first day of your last menstrual period, you'd be about 9 weeks pregnant. Let's look at this fetal development brochure. According to this brochure, your unborn baby's heart began beating at day 21. Brain waves can be detected and recorded, and in week 7, the baby began to move spontaneously. Here's a picture of a 9-week baby.
I didn't know it looked like that. I just thought it was a glob of tissue.
Yeah, it's surprising and amazing how intricately made the young one is. Would you like me to review the abortion procedures for a first trimester abortion?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. We're going to go over this brochure. And you can keep this if you want.
Okay, can I keep this too?
Yes, of course. The most common procedure for a first trimester abortion is a suction curettage. Now, for this procedure, you'll be on a table with your feet in stirrups. The setup and table are like a pelvic exam. Have you been to a gynecologist before?
Yeah, my mom made me go and I hated it.
It is an uncomfortable procedure.
It was.
Well, your body posture would be the same in this type of procedure. The abortionist would use a speculum to enlarge the vaginal canal. Once the speculum is in place, a type of painkiller is inserted into the cervix to numb the area.
Oh, well, I just want to be put out. I don't want to see or feel anything.
Most clinics don't have an individual on site to administer anesthesia to put you under. Most clinics are only able to offer the girls a local anesthetic.
Oh.
Do you want me to continue sharing about the procedure?
Yeah.
A woman's cervix is made up of muscles. During pregnancy, the cervical muscles close up tight to protect the unborn child from infection. The abortionist will dilate or open the cervix using dilators, metal rods. The dilators could overstretch or tear the cervix because it is just unnatural for the cervical muscles to be open this early in pregnancy.
Well, what if the muscles are damaged?
It might mean in a future pregnancy the cervix will not close up tight enough.
Then what would happen to my baby?
It may cause you to have a miscarriage. Please remember that the percentages for this are low, but you have a right to know all the possible complications.
Yeah, you're right.
After the dilators, a cannula, which is similar to a plastic tube, is inserted into the uterus. The cannula is attached to a suction hose, which is attached to a suction machine. Once the machine is turned on, the baby, amniotic sac, and fluid will be removed.
That's awful. I don't know if I could do it. Is that all of the procedure?
No, Mary, that's not all. Would you like me to finish?
Yes.
The abortionist will take forceps to remove any fetal parts or tissue once the suctioning or vacuuming is completed. A curette, metal rod with a loop, is then skimmed along the sides of the uterus to remove any fetal tissue and placenta. Mary, may I share with you some other physical risks to abortion?
Sure. I want to know.
See here in the brochure. Some other risks could include excessive bleeding, perforation of the uterus, infection, and a potential risk of breast cancer.
Breast cancer?
Now, there are differences of opinion in the medical community about this issue. Some studies indicate that women who have had an abortion might be at an increased risk for breast cancer. Other studies show that this linkage cannot be conclusively established. There was a study done in 1994 by the National Cancer Institute. A study of over 1,800 women in Washington state showed a significant increase, a 50% increased risk among women who had had any abortions. That risk was more than doubled when the women had had the abortions before age 18 or over age 30. It's all right there in the brochure.
That's scary.
I'm not trying to scare you. It's important for you to be fully informed about abortion before you have one.
Yeah, you've told me a lot of things I didn't know before. It certainly makes me think differently about abortion.
Pregnancy center personnel are to always treat clients with dignity and respect. A peer counselor should not engage in any conduct that may be understood by the client as an attempt to prevent or block her exit from the center. There may be serious legal liability for such actions. Forcing a client to stay at the center against her will can be legally viewed as false imprisonment. Also, federal laws that guarantee access to abortion clinics may be violated if a pregnancy center is found to have physically hindered an abortion-prone client from seeking an abortion. A client should always be made to feel welcome to leave the center if this is her preference. The door to a counseling room should not be shut until the client has granted permission. Furniture in the counseling room should be positioned so that a client will not feel trapped. And a peer counselor should never block a client when she is seeking to leave the counseling room or the center. Again, Mary's recollections do not conform to what happened at the center. Thankfully, Nan did not make such an offer. It would have been illegal and a plain conflict of interest for a peer counselor to propose to a client an adoption on behalf of herself or on behalf of a family member. Adoptions are subject to strict legal rules and are ordinarily handled only by licensed adoption agencies or attorneys. A pregnancy center's role should generally be confined to offering general adoption counseling and referrals to agencies if a client is interested in pursuing this option. Unless the pregnancy center is a licensed adoption agency, it should maintain as much independence as possible from the adoption process. Let's see how Nan actually broached and handled the issue of adoption.
Mary, you have 3 choices: abortion, parent this child, and adoption.
I could never carry my child for 9 months and give it up.
What part of adoption makes you uncomfortable?
Well, if I'm going to carry it, I can't just let someone else raise it.
May I share with you some things about adoption that you may not know?
Yeah, but I'm not going to give up my baby.
No one can make you have an adoption. Some women choose adoption because they want their child to have a mother and a father.
Well, that's important, but I just couldn't do it.
I understand what you're saying. You think it would be hard to allow your child to be raised by someone else.
Yeah.
Adoption has really changed since the old days. As a birth mother, you can choose who is going to care for your child. You can look at family information about potential couples and even meet them.
Like meet them face to face and interview them?
Yes, that's right. I've had clients who've worked with adoption agencies, and even after they've released their child, they still get pictures and letters from the adoptive families.
Really?
Yeah. Now, we're not an adoption agency. We don't do adoptions. But I have a list of places on this referral sheet that you could call to get more information. By calling, you're not obligated to make an adoption plan, but it'll help you make sure that you've fully explored all of your options.
Thank you. That would be a good idea.
Even a matter as simple as gently touching or hugging a client can give rise to legal concerns. Under some circumstances, the intentional touching of another person without their permission may be viewed under the law as an actionable battery. Therefore, before hugging a client or otherwise touching her, a peer counselor should always ask permission. Let's see how Nan actually handled the situation.
Well, Mary, we have discussed a lot of things today. Would you like to make a follow-up appointment after you've had a few days to think things over?
No, I don't think so. You've been very helpful.
Well, you've been very easy to talk with. You've asked good questions and listened intently. I appreciate you coming in here today and getting as much information as you can before you make this decision. Thank you so much for coming. Do you mind if I give you a hug?
Mary is alleging that Nan broke confidentiality to inform her father about her pregnancy and illicit relationship. This is a very serious allegation. A pregnancy center's relationship with a client must be built upon a foundation of trust. This trust can only be preserved when a center keeps its promise of confidentiality. Just because a client is a minor does not mean that the center's promise of confidentiality is somehow lessened. On the other hand, a pregnancy center's promise of confidentiality is not absolute. There are various circumstances in which a pregnancy center may be legally compelled or justified to disclose confidential information, even without the consent of the client. The most common situations in which such disclosure may be necessary are when a client has been the victim of statutory rape or some other form of abuse, when the client is suicidal, when information about the client is being sought by legal subpoena or court order, when disclosure is necessary to protect the client or some third party against imminent harm. In this situation, contrary to Mary's speculation, Nan did not break confidentiality to telephone her father. However, depending upon the state law that applied, Nan may have had a legal responsibility to report Mary's relationship with her boyfriend as statutory rape. In most states, a sexual relationship between a 15-year-old girl and a 19-year-old partner would be treated as statutory rape. Also, in many states, the pregnancy center would be required to report such a situation to Child Protection Services or to police under applicable child abuse reporting laws. Every center and its counseling staff should be generally aware of these reporting responsibilities. There are some other areas that we must cover that were not shown in the court scene. Accurate and thorough documentation of client information is imperative. Your center will have specific guidelines and procedures for documenting contacts and correspondence with clients. Records could be requested by local authorities, attorneys, and judges, and even by the client. Client files and forms should not be taken out of the center. Your written and recorded information on clients must always be objective and subjective. As a caring helper, you should only record facts, not your feelings or your personal opinion. After a client leaves the center, the volunteer will summarize in writing what took place in the counseling session, such as the reason for the client's visit, the needs and concerns of the client, the educational material presented by the volunteer, and the client's statements and responses. Sadly, Mary's testimony about her treatment at the center differed greatly from what actually occurred. While most clients will retain favorable impressions about their treatment at the center, it is important to recognize that this does not always occur. These distorted recollections may be related to the trauma of an abortion or other factors. This is one reason why it is a good practice to have clients complete an exit interview in writing at the end of their visit to the center. Your center will have specific guidelines on media relations. In most centers, the executive director is the only one to speak to the media. See your center Policy and Procedures Manual on Media and Communication Protocol. Never discuss other organizations in a negative way. Our organizations must avoid defamation of character. Instead, you should share in positive ways how your organization empowers women.